Hey, BJ, you grew up in Detroit,
Right.
a diehard Pistons fan, Tigers, Red Wings fan. Um, what is it about rooting for those teams? And did the bad boy Pistons really represent the city the way that you feel like it should have been represented?
Oh, Rick, man, you're going you're asking questions dear to my heart right now.
Good, good.
Growing up in Detroit, you have this underdog mentality. You root for the Red Wings, you root for the Tigers, you root for the Lions, you root for the Pistons, no matter what. That's just what you do. That's what we do. It's none of this. I'm rooting for my favorite player stuff. You root for your team. All those years, Rex, that I played in Chicago, my family would root for the Pistons. My mom and dad would be like, well, son, I hope you play well. But you know what? I just love Isaiah. I just love Joe Dumars. And I respected that. You know what I mean? I respected that because all of my family, they wanted tickets to come cheer against me. You know what I mean? And but that's what you do in Detroit. Did they represent? That is the city of Detroit. It's one thing about Detroit. We may lose the game that we like to say up there, but we're not going to lose the fight. And Rex, you played against those teams.
Yeah.
You knew you had to play with a certain level of toughness. And when you say a team that really represented the city and how the people felt about themselves, they're the underdog and we're tough and we're going to fight. And if we win the game, great, but we're going to win this fight. And we're not going to lose both. So, Detroit is so influential on all of us. When I see Jalen Rose, everyone's repping Detroit. I don't have my Detroit stuff on today, but every single day it drives my family crazy. My kids are like, Dad, Detroit, they're not winning. Why won't you root for them? No, I'm from Detroit. So that's what you do up there. And that's the greatest logo in sports, that Tigers.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the greatest logo. So we love Detroit, but no, put it bluntly, we love the Pistons. And Cade
Just the way
Cunningham
you
and those
came
guys.
up.
Yeah, that's it. Cade Cunningham and those guys. We're back. We're back now. So that's what we do.
We're both from Kentucky, and cities that are in some way maligned, or states that we're known as like hillbillies and whatnot. And Detroit was known for a long time. It's on the come up, but as a decaying city, a has-been city. Even if you look at places like, say, even it's a great city, but Boston always feels like New York light or not Chicago, and these fan bases really get into their sports teams because it represents them. And they're like, shows that we're proud to be, that we're proud to be where we're from. And like, I went to school at Auburn, and I was friends with a lot of the players and whatnot. And I went to every game and cheered and loved it. But when Kentucky came, I came with the gear. I mean, I don't care.
I get it. You got to have it. I get it. I understand it. And, we're the underdog. And you know what? People say they're tough times. We're like, where? This is Detroit. Like, what happened? There's a pandemic. We're like, what? Where is it happening? You know what I mean? Detroit's declining. We're like, where? We're fine. We're good. What's wrong? What are you guys reporting? So, my parents still live in Detroit. They're not leaving. And my family, they're like, oh, Detroit's fine. I was like, are you guys going to? No, man, Detroit's good. When you coming back home?
Oh, man. Well, I won't stay on this topic too long. Josh just showed his shirt. But Josh, can you believe the Iowa Hawkeyes? They got beat in the first round this year. Can you believe the Iowa Hawkeyes did? They were a high seed.
Yeah.
And they got beat in the first round. In the very first round. Yeah. Wait, did we get beat too? In the first
yeah. I don't want to bring
that up. Dang it. Nice try, Rex. Nice try.
You know what, Rex? The best part this year about watching the NCAA tournament was watching you on TV. You know what? Yeah, it was great. Because you know what? It was you, Candace, and Candace from Chicago. And but you look great. You looked great.
Thanks, bro. Well, I looked great, but I also declared Pete Gillen dead live on air. And
I thought it was an inside joke. I didn't get it. It was great.
I confused him with Skip Prosser, who did pass away. But anyway, stuff happens.
Yes, absolutely.
Anyway. I said, don't spend 14, 15 years of your life on drugs. You won't forget those things.
In retrospect, it was the greatest moment of the broadcast. It's like,
absolutely.
It's like getting the baseball card that's wrong with the reprint, and it's the most valuable one. That moment was like, oh my God, that was fantastic.
Hey, BJ, I gotta ask this. So like I was trying to think last night of whose game, we played in an era where you would, at our size, we got posted up.
Right.
And they don't do that anymore. I try to think about, today's game where you can't really touch people I would have liked to play it in it, but it was tailor-made for you. When I think about your game, you're sort of like CJ McCollum.
Right.
Can really shoot it, can get to your spot, all of that stuff. When was the first time you realized you were special with a basketball in your hand?
Well, Rex, growing up, I never thought of it as being better. I grew up in Detroit, and there were it seemed like just players everywhere.
Yeah, there were.
There were just players we would play, and you would, like Magic, I remember as a kid, you would go and you watch Magic and you go, man, there's no way. And then, Isaiah came, you're like, oh my gosh. And then Joe Dumars came, you're like, oh man. And then George Gervin was from there and all of these guys. And you were like, wow, there's no way. So the humility of thinking that I was special, I remember like watching these guys, Dave Bing and all of these people going, oh man, Spencer Haywood. And my dad was talking about that. And they were just players. They were just seemed like they were just players. And, Terry Mills and Glenn Rice and all those guys from Flint and, the late Roy Marble, they were just players everywhere. Mark Macon. So for me to think that I was special, it never occurred to me. What I did want to do was I just wanted to go out and show that I could play with those guys. Isaiah Thomas and those guys from the Pistons, when they were young, they would come down into the city. There's a place called St. Cecilia. I'm sure you've heard of it, Rex. World-renowned little gym. It's literally a gym, and the wall is the out of bounds. It's like a little gym, but that's where you played. And all I wanted, Rex, was to get the respect of my peers who played down there. That's all I wanted, Rex. The NBA was like, that was just icing on the cake. I just wanted to be able to play there to represent that I could play in the summertime with these guys, because if you couldn't play there, Rex, you had no chance of doing anything else. You know what I mean? Right. So there was a level of toughness that you had to play with. And that's all I wanted. Rex. To think I was great or good, it never occurred to me, because every day you could, there was somebody waiting on the sideline that could take you out.
You're a Michigan kid who ends up at Iowa. Was it hurtful that the Michigan and Michigan State didn't come at you as hard, or did they?
Well, Michigan and Michigan State did.
Okay.
To be honest with you, Rex, I just wasn't good enough. They had a young guard over at Michigan State by the name of Scott Skiles. And as he eloquently put in my recruiting visit, if you come here, just be prepared to sit on the bench for the next 3 years.
That's my guy.
Scott is my guy, and we laugh about it now. But Scott was like,
not much of a recruiter.
Yeah, he was like, hey, you come here, you're going to be on the bench for the next 3 years. Okay, so it's fair to say every time I saw him in college, what I tried to do.
Yeah.
And then they had Gary Grant, Antoine Jobert, Roy Tarpley, and those guys. And they were like, they told me flat out, hey, we'd love for you to come, but you're going to have to redshirt.
Wow.
So, that's how good they were.
But you were a little, I kind of like me coming out at 18. You had a small, your chest was always big and strong, but you were slight, and it probably was, they weren't the only people who said, he could use a year of maturity.
Absolutely. So I couldn't disagree. My feelings were hurt, of course. You know what I mean? My feelings were hurt. But I had to find a place that was right for me. And George Raveling at the time recruited me there. and thought I had a chance and gave me an opportunity. And I went and played at Iowa with the same chip I had on my shoulder, playing how I would play every day in the city of Detroit. So, but I was in the Big Ten. I got a chance to play against those teams, and it was a great fit for me. So it all worked out in the end. But I remember, I mean, Scott, that was funny at Michigan State. It was great. I was stunned. I remember, I can remember Coach Izzo was looking like, what are you saying? Like, you know, Judd Heathcote was the coach there.
I could see it.
He was so brutally honest. You know, it's only Scott can. You know, it was great. And I love Scott. You know, he's a great friend over the years. And then Michigan, they were good. And Antoine Joubert was the number one player in the country. Gary Grant, you know, was an elite defensive player at that particular time. Roy Tarpley, you know, Wade. They were like number one. He was right. And so I can't be mad at it.
The judge and the general.
The judge,
That's our time, man.
The judge. That's what they call them. They were like, "Man, you can't go there. You'll never play." I was like,
"Judge, no question, no question." Hey, you still have the record at your high school for 51 in a game. Now at Brother Rice. Now that's before the 3, correct?
I didn't play with the 3, Rex.
I didn't either.
I didn't play with the 3 in high school. I didn't play with the 3. I think like my sophomore, junior year in college.
That's when it was my freshman year, and you were one grade ahead.
I was 1 year. I think it's 1 year ahead. You know, I'm old enough, Rex. I can't remember anything anymore. You know what I mean?
I think we're probably the same age. Back in time.
Hey, who's counting? You know what I mean? Who's counting? But no,
how many would you have that night if they had?
It was 70, just a different game.